What a day in Steelers Nation. Buckle up, because today's show starts with a twist nobody saw coming. A major update on Aaron Rodgers, straight from the man himself, has just flipped the entire week upside down. And trust me, the ripple effect it has on Sunday's matchup is massive. Rodgers spoke with the media earlier today, and his message was surprisingly bold. Despite missing practice and spending most of his time in the training room, he made it clear he's pushing to return tomorrow. Remember, this is the same wrist that was confirmed broken. Yet the urgency in his voice made one thing obvious. He's doing everything he can to suit up against Chicago. Mike Tomlin said Friday would be the ultimate decision day, but Rodgers' timeline feels even more aggressive. His determination? Off the charts. And at this point, it genuinely looks like number 8 intends to walk onto that field Sunday afternoon. But here's the real issue, and it's a big one. If Rodgers can't perform every part of the offense the way this system requires, should he even be out there? Playing through pain isn't new for him. But history shows that whenever Rodgers pushes through these types of injuries, whether on his throwing hand or not, his performance dips. We've seen it this year already. Since jamming that finger back in Week 9, his production has plummeted and the numbers don't lie. And today, Rodgers confirmed the biggest challenge he's facing. He admitted it himself. Taking snaps under center is harder than receiving them in shotgun. That alone raises questions about how much this offense may have to adjust. Sure, they can run pistol if they need spacing, but the goal is still to operate normally, which means testing those under center snaps this week. Now, before we continue, quick moment for everyone watching. If you love staying ahead on Steelers updates, injury news, and everything happening around this team, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a single update. Your support keeps this show rolling every day. Back to Rodgers, and here's the concern fans shouldn't ignore. Playing through multiple hand injuries while powering an offense that already demands perfect timing? That's a dangerous combination. And as determined as he sounds, determination alone doesn't win games. Execution does. And right now, Rodgers hasn't looked like himself for weeks. But this story is only getting started, and the fallout could hit the Steelers in ways most people aren't thinking about. So stick with me, because what comes next may change the entire outlook for this week and beyond. Before these injuries started piling up, Rodgers was operating at a completely different level. When everything was aligned, fingers healthy, mechanics clean, he ranked inside the top tier of quarterbacks across almost every meaningful category. He wasn't just good. He was consistently outperforming league averages and giving his team a real edge every single week. But now, add a fractured wrist to the mix. Add a brace that changes the balance and feel of every throw, and suddenly the picture shifts. This isn't a small inconvenience. It affects grip, timing, weight transfer, all the things that make a quarterback's job even possible. And the question becomes, how much can he realistically give while fighting his own body? We've seen this story before. Back in 2022, when he played through a broken thumb for weeks, the results were rough. Green Bay dropped 6 of the next 7 games, and Rodgers struggled throughout that stretch. People forget how much that team had going on, missing Davante Adams, dealing with injuries elsewhere. But the bottom line is this. He simply couldn't play at his standard while managing that kind of pain, no matter how tough he tried to be. Sure, he pushed back later in the season and nearly dragged them into playoff contention. But even then, that run ended with a loss to Detroit at Lambeau, his final game as a Packer. And throughout that difficult stretch, the Packers were putting up barely 19 points per game. That's not Rodgers. That's a quarterback fighting a battle on 2 fronts, the opponent and his own body. And that's exactly why this situation feels so delicate. The Steelers need Rodgers at full strength when the season's on the line, not limping into December, not forcing throws, not trying to survive through pain. If there's even a chance that playing now delays his recovery later, that's a risk the Steelers can't afford. Honestly, if he's not all the way there, I'd roll with Mason Rudolph. He's proven he can manage the offense, protect the football, and give this team a real shot, especially in a winnable matchup like the one coming up. But knowing Rodgers, if he's even close, he'll insist on being out there. And speaking of decisions, there's an even bigger one coming up. Next, we need to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. and Brandin Cooks. Both suddenly available, both potentially perfect fits, and both drawing interest across the league. Which one makes the most sense for Pittsburgh? If either of them does it all, stay with me. When the conversation turns toward wide receivers, Steelers Nation immediately lights up with 2 big names, Odell Beckham Jr. and Brandin Cooks. Both suddenly available, both carrying star power, both easy to get excited about. But here's the truth the Steelers have to face. A move like this isn't as simple as grabbing a familiar name and throwing him into the lineup. Pittsburgh's system isn't plug-and-play. It demands precision. It demands fluency. And it demands receivers who understand not just their route, but every adjustment, every audible, and every change Aaron Rodgers makes at the line. This offense is layered. It's dense. It forces receivers to think 2 steps ahead before the ball even touches their hands. And that's exactly why new players take so long to settle in. We've already seen it with Mike Williams and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Talented players, big resumes, but it still took weeks for one to feel comfortable, and the other is still on the practice field trying to digest everything. That's not a criticism. It's the reality of joining this particular offense in the middle of the season. So when people ask whether OBJ or Cooks can walk in and instantly transform the passing game, that's just not how this unit works. It would take time, weeks, not days, for either one to be trusted in high-leverage situations. And the second point is even more important. The Steelers already have young talent waiting to be unleashed. Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III bring speed, separation, and suddenness, traits this offense desperately needs. The issue isn't ability. It's opportunity. These two haven't been used the way they should be, and adding another veteran might only complicate that further. If Pittsburgh did decide to bring in someone, Cooks makes more sense than Beckham. He's been playing, he's in rhythm, and he still has the reliable hands and disciplined route running that made him a favorite for quarterbacks throughout his career. He's not the burner he once was, but he's still dependable, still sharp, still smart, and that matters in a timing-based offense. But even with that said, the Steelers have to ask themselves one critical question. Is the answer really outside the building, or already wearing black and gold? Because the more you look at this team, the clearer it becomes. Unlocking the receivers they already have might be far more valuable than chasing the next big name. And that brings us to a much bigger issue with this offense, one that goes deeper than any single player. Stay with me. When you look at this Steelers offense, the biggest frustration isn't talent, it's usage. Pittsburgh has explosive playmakers who are built to stretch the field, but the system keeps shrinking their impact. And that's where things start to fall apart. Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III are perfect examples. Both have legit, blazing speed, the kind that defensive coordinators hate and safeties fear. Both run cleaner routes than people realize. Yet the routes they're being asked to run look nothing like what their strengths demand. Instead of attacking space, instead of forcing defenders to turn and chase, the offense keeps forcing them into short, static patterns that completely neutralize what makes them dangerous. And it isn't just them. The Steelers are overflowing with weapons who should be featured far more than they are. Instead, the target distribution tells a story that doesn't make sense for a team built on athleticism and versatility. The second running back in the rotation sits near the top of the target list. A tight end who has struggled to produce is still being prioritized. Meanwhile, the players who actually generate explosive yardage, Pat Freiermuth, Jalen Warren, Roman Wilson, are stuck deeper down the order, waiting for opportunities that should already be theirs. Look at the numbers. Roman Wilson leads the team in yards per target. When he touches the ball, something positive happens. Yet he's barely cracking the top half of the offense in total targets. Freiermuth is right behind him in efficiency, but the ball keeps going elsewhere. Darnell Washington has been quietly effective too, and even he's in the background. This offense is built to move, built for motion, speed, separation, but too often it's being forced into routes that stop momentum rather than create it. Out routes, comebacks, shallow patterns with no chance to turn upfield. It's the exact opposite of how players like Wilson and Austin should be used. Calvin Austin III, especially, feels miscast. He's not a possession receiver. He's a space predator, someone you send across the field at full speed, someone who forces defenders into foot races they don't want. He should be attacking open grass on deep crossers, drags, and routes that let him build momentum. He's a natural yards after catch weapon, a true separator, and one of the fastest players on the roster. But he can't show that on routes designed to stop instead of go. The Steelers don't need more wide receivers. They need to unlock the ones they already have. And the deeper we go into this offense, the clearer the real issue becomes. This isn't a problem of personnel. It's a problem of philosophy. Stay with me. Let's be brutally honest here. The Pittsburgh Steelers have built one of the fastest wide receiver rooms in the entire AFC, yet they're using that speed like it's optional. And that, right now, is killing this offense. Calvin Austin has world-class acceleration, but only 6 of his catches this season came on true in-breaking routes. That is unbelievable. Why draft lightning if you're only going to ask it to run stop routes and step out of bounds? And this trend isn't new. It feels like the ghost of old Steelers' offensive habits creeping back in. You watch the film, and it's the same thing over and over. Out routes, stop routes, out routes, stop routes. No motion to free up speed. No middle-of-the-field threats. No grass in front of you opportunities. It's almost like someone is terrified to attack the middle of the field. And when defenses realize you're scared of that area, they sit on everything outside. They jump routes. They squeeze the sideline. Your offense becomes predictable, and predictable offenses don't win in December and January. The Steelers cannot keep wasting the athleticism sitting right there on this roster. Who the Steelers must feature more? 1. Roman Wilson. He leads the team in yards per target. Every time he gets the ball, something happens. So why isn't he getting more? This dude needs feature player treatment. 2. Pat Freiermuth. When he's on the field, the offense actually looks functional. He's your best all-around tight end. Give him the snaps that matter. Simple. 3. Darnell Washington. Quietly increasing his workload, and it shows. Size. Mismatchability. Physicality. Use it. Feed him. Keep progressing him into a legitimate threat. 4. Jaylen Warren. If the Steelers want to throw to the running back, this is the guy. Third downs, mismatches, angle routes. Warren turns those into explosive plays. 5. Calvin Austin. 3. Use his speed the way it should be used. Over the middle with space, forcing defenses to honor the deep cross and the in-breaking game. He's the Steelers' most dangerous RAC weapon when used correctly. Who needs a reduced role Jonnu Smith? He should not be anywhere near the top of the target list. That's just misallocation of resources. Kenny Gainwell's solid rotational back, but that's it. He cannot be receiving more valuable touches than your primary playmakers. When your number 2 running back and your number 3 tight end are getting featured player volume, something is seriously out of balance. The biggest problem of all, predictability. Arthur Smith's offense has weapons, but the sequencing is too easy to read. Defenses are diagnosing plays before the ball is even snapped. And when your pass rate climbs near the top of the league without using the middle of the field, you're just asking to be boxed in. If the Steelers want to unlock Aaron Rodgers and this offense, the solution is simple. Attack the middle. Use speed vertically and horizontally. Get the ball to your best players. Stop forcing targets to depth chart backups. Because right now, the talent is there, the usage isn't. Right now, the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is stuck in the middle of nowhere. Last season, this team leaned heavily on the ground and pound approach, a style that matched Arthur Smith's reputation perfectly. But this year, the balance has swung completely the other direction. The Steelers went from being one of the least pass-heavy teams in football to suddenly climbing into the top tier in pass rate. Yes, some of that is Aaron Rodgers taking control at the line of scrimmage. Yes, he's going to check into throws when he sees favorable matchups. But here's the problem. The Steelers are drifting away from the part of their offense that features their most dangerous weapon, Jaylen Warren. When this team runs the football, the offense is calmer, cleaner, and far more efficient. Warren doesn't just move the chains, he changes the entire tone of the game. Pittsburgh cannot afford to treat the run game like a side dish. It needs to be part of the main plan. The truth is simple. This offense looks sharper, faster, and far more dangerous when Aaron Rodgers is operating under center. Every great offense in today's NFL leans on that foundation because it opens up the run game, fuels play action, and forces defenses to stay honest. Rodgers is good enough to thrive from shotgun, no question, but the team is better when the playbook keeps him closer to the line and the defense guessing. If the Steelers want to lift this offense out of its middle-of-the-pack rhythm, Arthur Smith and Rodgers have to commit to a more balanced approach. More under-center snaps. More downhill carries for Jaylen Warren. More play action that actually threatens defenses vertically. The red zone efficiency is solid, and ball security has been impressive, but outside of that, too much of this offense feels ordinary, and the Steelers don't have time for ordinary. If Pittsburgh wants to score 30 in January, if they want to scare teams in the postseason, they need structure that maximizes their best players, not one that hides them in predictable tendencies. Fire the Darnell Washington factor. One bright spot in this offense has been the evolution of Darnell Washington. And yes, the conversation about his size has become almost legendary. He confirmed recently that he's weighing in around 311 pounds, and yet he moves like someone 60 pounds lighter. That is rare. To put it in perspective, He weighs the same as first-round left tackle Broderick Jones. He's bigger than both Steelers' nose tackles, and he's only a handful of pounds lighter than the heaviest defensive lineman on the roster. A player that massive should not be able to run the way he does, let alone catch and accelerate after the catch. Washington isn't just a mismatch, he's a cheat code, and the Steelers need to keep featuring him as one. He has earned more involvement, more targets, and more opportunities to tilt games in Pittsburgh's favor. Injury setback, Cory Trice Jr. Unfortunately, the news isn't all positive. Cornerback Cory Trice Jr. has officially been ruled out for the season after his 21-day practice window closed without him being activated. He's been battling knee and hamstring issues throughout the year, and this marks another season where he hasn't been able to get on the field. In 3 years with Pittsburgh, 2 seasons with 0 snaps, played 1 season where injuries followed him from start to finish. It's devastating, because the talent is real, but reliability is part of the job, and the Steelers may be forced to make a difficult decision this offseason. With another year left on his rookie deal, the front office has to decide whether to give him one final shot or move on from someone who simply hasn't been available. Closing thoughts: there is enough talent on this Pittsburgh Steelers roster to build a dangerous offense, one that can attack you with speed, power, and creativity. But it requires the coaching staff to step into the modern era, dialing up more under center work, unleashing Warren, maximizing Washington, and refusing to fall back into predictable habits. If they can unlock that version of themselves, this team can absolutely make noise down the stretch. If you want, I can now assemble the full script, polish the flow, add transitions, and turn it into a complete professional production-ready NFL commentary. The biggest issue: extreme predictability. The numbers don't lie. The Steelers are lining up in shotgun nearly 70% of the time, and when they do, they throw the ball 75% of the time. That's basically shouting the play call across the field. Defenses aren't guessing, they're reacting instantly. And when Pittsburgh finally goes under center, they run. Almost every time. That is the kind of predictability that makes defensive coordinators smile and pass rushers sprint off the edge without hesitation. If you're easy to read, you're easy to beat. The Steelers must break these tendencies, not by reinventing everything, but by rediscovering what already works. The fix: live under center and use play action. When the Steelers actually go under center, something special happens. The offense wakes up. Look no further than Week 1 against the Jets. The play-action game was slicing through the defense, producing chunk plays and touchdowns like clockwork. But after that, Pittsburgh drifted completely away from what was clearly one of their most effective tools. The top-scoring offenses in football, the ones that consistently manufacture explosive plays, all lean on heavy under-center usage and a strong play-action identity. It slows down pass rushers, creates cleaner throwing lanes, and forces linebackers to respect the run. Pittsburgh has the personnel for this. A power-running tailback who thrives downhill tight and's built for heavy sets, a quarterback who can punish defenses when the play-action fake actually matters, yet the Steelers sit near the bottom third of the league in under-center snaps. That simply cannot continue. The bottom line: Aaron Rodgers loves operating from shotgun, no question. But this offense cannot live on Rodgers' preferences alone. The Steelers need balance. They need unpredictability. They need to force defenses to defend everything, not just the sideline and the quick pass. Move under center. Lean into play action again. Get Warren rolling downhill. Break the tendencies that are suffocating the offense. Because until Pittsburgh commits to a more balanced identity, they'll continue to make life harder on themselves than it needs to be.